Yo, what is going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today we've got a player tier list for the SPL teams. I think I go over a little bit of like the SPL teams also, but I did it on stream. But a lot of you guys were interested in it on stream, and you guys were wondering if I was going to upload it. And I mean, I might as well. You guys can talk about it in the comments. Let me know what you think, where I messed up on. I got yelled at a lot on stream, so you know it happens. But I hope you guys enjoy the video. Starting with ADCs. Okay. Easy start. Okay. In my opinion, ADCs is probably the easiest to start with, because I think Barracuda's probably been one of the worst ADCs all year. I think it's been kind of like a blowout. I don't think it's been particularly close. Next up, I think it is Wowie, and then I think Zap has had a pretty bad year, and then Stuart. This is my bottom four. I think Stu's been better than Zap for most of this year. I think when we were winning, a lot of it was on Stu. Even when I left, I think a lot of it was Stu. And then I think when they were playing really bad, a lot of it was on Zap. I think Zap and Ronnie were playing really bad in duo together. And I think they weren't really doing anything except just kind of losing. And then he was also playing mages, which was dog. I think maybe if you want to talk about just really recent, I would probably be fine with swapping Zap and Stu. I mean, I can only judge from what I've seen from Yarkor this year. And I think Yarkor has looked better than both Stuart and Zap. I think it is like these four are all pretty similar. And then I think Yark is in a spot of his own. And then I think Vote, Panda, and Net have all looked really good kind of almost all this year. See, the thing is I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I am incredibly high on Vote. I think Vote has played phenomenally this year. And I think he's like a lot of the main reason when the Warriors win. He is playing like so well. He is playing so well. I'm putting Vote first. And then I think these two are a lot closer. To be fair, it's very close. I think all these three are very, very close. I think Net has been slightly better than Panda. I think Panda's actually had like a somewhat down year, to be honest. And that's just like, Panda's been great kind of his entire career. Saying he's been down, I don't think that's saying much. But I think he has probably been third best for the ADCs. I'm really happy with these ones. The only ones I would potentially switch are Stuart and Zap. And then I could probably be talked into Net and Panda. But I think Net's been a little bit better. I'm pretty sure I'm comfortable with this. I think this is fine. Next role, support. Okay, I think this was really easy too. I think these two are like the easiest ones to do. I think Jake has been horrendous. I think Jake has looked really bad this year. I think a lot of the problem with the Bolts are these two just do not look good together. When you think of the Bolts, you think of their dual lane winning because Jake is picking pressure. You're going to be surprised. If you think Gamma is going to be under Jake, you're going to be surprised with where I have Gamma if you think that. Because I have been supremely impressed with Gamma. Next up, I think Hurry. I mean, he's not looked bad. I think he's been fine. He kind of went into a team where there wasn't a lot of consistency, and he actually didn't look too bad. He has some really bad plays, but he also has some really decent plays. And to be fair, I think he's clearly better than Jake, but I do think he is still 7th. And now this is where it becomes a little bit of a problem, because I think these three are like the next tier, but I do think Aurora has looked not great. I do think Aurora has not looked too great this year. And then because of how the Warriors play, Neil just looks bad some games. And so I hate taking that away from him because he looks bad some games. But it's because of how his team plays. When they start falling behind early, Neil's the one looking to make plays. Neil's the one giving up farm. Neil's the one looking to like take farm from the enemy and like trade his life for it just to like slow the enemy down. Like Neil does a lot of things that I think are unrecognized unless you're kind of a support or you're like a top level player. But I think that Gamma kind of does the same thing, except he takes a lot more farm, but he carries with it. But I would be fine with switching these two around. But I'm gonna put Gamma as 4th. I think Gamma's been fantastic. Next up, Ronnie. I think Ronnie's like clearly 3rd. I don't think he's close to the top 2, but I think he's not really close to Gamma and Neil too. Overall, I mean, you don't really think of Ronnie as an inconsistent player. He plays well, he farms well, he makes plays, he hits his abilities. So, I mean, Ronnie, I'm comfortable 3rd. Next up, Mike, and then lastly, Genetics. I think Genetics is the best support in the league, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think he's the only support that really thinks about what he's doing a lot of the time. Sometimes he overthinks, to be fair. Sometimes he definitely overthinks. But I think he is the reason that the Kings win a lot of their games with his shot calling and with his horror assaults and his plays and his shot calling. And I think Mike is more just kind of run it down if he doesn't get an early lead. Mike looks a lot worse. But yeah, like I said, these two I would be fine switching. I think these two are probably like really close. Next up, solo. Oh, it's always the hardest doing solo lane, man. It's always the hardest doing solo lane. Like, who do you put last? Like, it's probably Scary. But the games that they play well, Scary looks really good. Haddix number 8, not biased. Yeah, we're going to put Scary last, but I think it's close. I think it's close between him and Baskin. Like, this is a grouping of bottom tiers. I don't think Aqua's that much better than Baskin. I don't think Baskin's much better than Scary. I don't think Scary is much better than, or much worse than Aqua. These three are really close. I think it's got to be these three at the bottom. And now this is where it gets hard. I'm going to do the number one first because he has been phenomenal this year. I think Fine OK has been number one. I think Fine has been insane. When the Dragons look good, it's between him and Scream carrying their games. He was the reason that they won Phase 2 playoffs. And he's the one that usually creates the solo lane meta. I think Nika's next. I think Nika is like for the early game and the mid game, Nika is kind of the Warriors win con. And if he's playing well, the team is playing well a lot of the time. If he's playing bad, which is very, very rare, his team is going to lose 100%. Like, if he gets camped or if he gets ganked a lot, the Warriors look a lot worse. Like, a lot worse. And he looks really good on the Hades. I think the Hades pick is actually really good for him because he can basically 1v2. He secures his own buff well. He gets pressure. He out-farms. And then he just scales well into the late game. And then I think these three are grouped pretty closely together. It kind of comes down to what you want from a solo laner. I think Variety is really underrated in terms of what he does for his team. He will first pick a god and look good on it no matter what. And no other solo laner will really do that except sometimes like Hades on Nika or Fine with Arthur when Arthur was meta. And I think that's very underrated with what he does. So it kind of comes down to just what you want. Solo is a big counter picker and he will win games by himself if you get him a nice counter pick. But you have to give him resources and you have to give him counter pick. Haddix is kind of the same way. I hate that he's typing because it's pretty much true where I think Solo and Haddix are same players, but I think Solo is just slightly better at what he does. I do think that Haddix is a slightly smarter team fighter than Solo, but I think Solo is a really good hard carry player. I'm going to do this. I would be fine with any order of these three, but I'm going to do this. Variety 4th, Solo 3rd, and Haddix 5th. But I think these, I don't want to do that. It feels bad putting Haddix in 5th because he is looking really good on that team. It just depends on what you want. Like the Levi's the only solo lane that the Levi's would fit better with than Haddix is a Variety. Actually, that's a lie because I think Fine would be really well on the Levi's. But I don't think Nika would look that good on the Levi's because like Nika needs resources. Haddix doesn't. Fine really doesn't. Variety doesn't. Fine kind of does. I think because it was my first thought, I'm going to do it. Do it. I'm going to do Solo, Variety, and Haddix. Like I said, these three are like so close. Like these three are incredibly close. And I would be fine with anyone. I would be fine with Haddix even in 3rd and then Variety 5th and Solo 4th. I would be fine with any order with this. But personally, this is what I would do. Mid to end it, or jungle to end it, but mid next. Over the course of the year, I might have to switch these two. I'm going to switch these two. Over the entire course of the year, I think Brendan has been slightly worse than Venenu. But I think currently, Venenu is the worst mid in the league. He just does not look comfortable at all. I don't know if it's like the team just isn't good or like the spirits are just not high, but I think Ven is looking bad. I do think over the course of the year, though, Brendan has looked worse, but I think currently Brendan looks better than Ven. That's personally, this is what I think. I would be fine with either of these switching around, but I personally currently would rather have Baronic over Ven. I guess that next has to be Benny. Benny's a playmaker, but Benny is also like a play troller. Benny makes a lot of good plays, but then he makes some really bad plays. And I don't think any of these mid laners make bad plays like that. So I think these three are your bottom three. Next for mids, I think it's got to be Paul. I think these four all just look better. Paul doesn't look bad, but he doesn't look great. And I don't know if it's like this Titans team isn't working with him or if it's just the environment wasn't great. I think he is 5th best right now. Also, if we're talking over like the entire course of this year, 100% Shinto would be 4th. But recently, Shinto has gotten really hot. Like he is starting to like farm really well. He is not dying like he used to die. He's team fighting really, really well. Currently, right now, I really want to put Dardes first. Dardes has a pretty small god pool, but when he gets like the Morrigan or Cern, he is literally the reason that they win the games. But Pegon has also looked really good this year too. I will say, in my opinion, I do not think Pegon in jungle and Scream in mid is a recipe for success. I think it makes them worse. And I think that is probably why I'm going to do this. Yeah, I'm doing it. I do think it's cool and I think it's interesting, but I think it makes them just a worse team. Next up, I'm going to go BMT 4th. I don't think he's like anything worse than Shinto, but I think he is more of a product of his team putting him into a spot to carry and him hitting his abilities and stuff like that, that I would put Shinto above him. There's no dragon bias? Oh, I wouldn't say that. I think this is pretty obvious. I think this is just pretty obvious. I think Scream is the best jungler in the league right now. I don't think Pegon has been like the reason they're losing, but I think it just makes them worse. 3 R's to Yark's name. I'm not adding 3. Okay, fine, I'll do it. What do you guys think? Is that better? The Twig Thor is 8th. Yes. The Twig Thor is 8th. I think this one is pretty obvious. And then maybe I'm alone in this, but I think Sam has looked the worst for junglers this entire year. When they picked up Scream, they went from a really bad team to a really good team. The Scarabs have not looked very good. He's not looked very good. I think his God pool is very weird right now, too. Thanatos didn't make a ton of sense. He said it was like troll after, so it's like whatever, but I think Sam is the worst. It's crazy because I feel like when the bolts are good, I think Lasbra's really, really strong. But when the bolts look bad, he looks really bad. I think Scream and Sam are your 1 and your 8. I think the next 3 are Lasbra, Kirmi, and Cuvo. And honestly, Cuvo has been looking really good recently, but he's also, when they lose, he looks really bad. Like when he lost that game, he was kind of the reason they lost. I think second place has to be Panatom. Second place has to be Panatom. I guess for right now, I gotta do this. Even though this feels bad because I think Lasbra is not the second worst, I think I have to put him in 7th because their team just looks so bad. This team just looks horrendous. The Scarabs look okay sometimes. The Bolts just do not look good. If you guys don't think Kirmi is sick, you guys do not watch Smite. If you guys do not think Kirmi is sick, Kirmi puts on shows on this team. He puts on shows. Maybe Twig is down here too. Maybe Twig is actually down here too. Maybe Cubo is 3rd. I feel like a lot of the junglers have not looked too good this phase, except Scream and Panatom. Like Twig has had a lot of pretty bad games. Cubo's had some pretty bad games, but I think it's less than Lairs and Twig. So maybe Cubo just has to be 3rd. I think we just have to do that. And I guess we have to put Twig 4th because I don't think he's looked worse than Lairs. Lasbra can't be 7th. Bro, they've looked so bad. They have looked so bad. You cannot tell me that you've watched a Bolts game and you've gone like, damn, they don't look too bad. Maybe I'm just disrespecting Laz. I mean, I think Kirmi's been doing great, but maybe I'm disrespecting Laz. Would you guys be okay with this? What about that? Can we do that? You think that's the worst way? I can order these 3. There it is. A nice little banger for you guys, the player tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys are not subscribed, please subscribe. We are almost up to 10,000. So make sure you guys are one of those first 10K because we're going to the moon. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you guys again next time. Peace.